think where people who normally sit together as competitors instead sit around together and collaborate, really what we've got here is an example of the power of that. And for us, this should be a way in which all training is developed for industry, by industry, and on a time frame that suits the industry. And we certainly intend to go back to government and say, we've given you a live example. If you really want things to be driven by industry, for industry, here's the real way in which you need to do it.
So currently we've recognised that we lack something that's specific to the merchandise function. And I think we also need to move beyond fragmentation in job titles to promote the industry as a whole. So, I mean, we've recognised catching up in as a wider team that, you know, we probably have 10 to 15 different job titles among us, and most of us are doing kind of similar roles. So I think there's something to say for that.
We believe that the merchandise function within our retail industry currently lacks a recognised, structured and comprehensive training program or course. The majority of people who are working in the industry currently have either just fallen into that industry or have actually just worked up through the ranks and eventually made it to that particular role within the business.
Some of the strengths that we see within the merchandise function is that it's valuable to its shareholders. It's valuable to a company's profit and loss, and the merchandise is at the forefront of delivering a company's strategy. They also control the end product and the service which they provide to their target customer. They also provide satisfaction to the customer through this well-considered product.
Within the Australian retail industry, we have a sound understanding of the retail climate and the trends that are driving the retail market. We also have talented and dedicated employees that are learning and adapting on the job.
And then, of course, we have customer insights from those people that drive our business strategy. A really important foundation in this country. We, those of us who grew up here or moved here, we understand how it works, and we want to keep that driving our overall strategies. And also, a strength is our product development from the people in the industry.
Some of the weaknesses that we believe we've identified is that we actually have a relatively low level of formal education within the sector. So 37% have a post-school qualification versus an all industry average of 60%. So there clearly is a gap there.
So we think that there'd be some benefit in standardising job titles among the industry. We definitely think that there's opportunity to create a training and education program that's recognised nationally. We think that this will lead to better qualified employees within the workforce.
Yeah, and look, for us, it's coming from a selfish standpoint, of course, because we want to be better trained at what we do and have a better qualification. But ultimately, what it will do is lead to a stronger workforce and hopefully a stronger economy eventually within Australia, allowing people to have this succession and planning and really keeping it within the industry. And also, it's about retention of employees to grow our current workforce.
And looking at some of the, challenges and threats that we've got as a retail merchandise is the fact that we don't really have any, or lack of any industry recognised qualifications or clear pathway entry or development within the specific roles. I know certainly as a child I aspired to be an astronaut instead of maybe being a general merchandise director, so that was quite limiting. Knowledge within the industry is often drip-fed through mentors and people internal to the business, which poses a little bit of a problem when especially the baby boomer generation, the next generation sort of exit out of the workforce. A lot of that experience and expertise will simply be lost if it's not formalised in some way. This essentially leads to a skills gap and a reason for international talent sourcing.
Sum it up. We have some short-term recommendations.
So in terms of, I suppose, growing and developing the current retail workforce, we put forward a recommendation that all employees participate in a course similar to what we've all just gone through. So we think it's helped us develop and I suppose refresh some of the fundamental skills in merchandising. So we'd highly recommend a program such as this for existing employees in the retail industry, and then we'll probably move on to a more long-term solution.
Yes, absolutely. So, long-term is actually developing from there into a tertiary education or qualification that's specific to the merchandise function. All of our merchandise functions are different. We all work in retail, but we have very different requirements for our different businesses. And so there's not a cookie-cutter approach to this, I don't think. There's a basic information that we all need, but then how do we specialise in our own areas of expertise?
So our proposal has 3 elements. Obviously the first being an industry recognised qualification, and that would cover all of the different functions that we perform on a day-to-day basis, buying, planning, store operations. But we also believe that there's a need to create an industry association. I mean, we've called it Master Merchandisers of Australia. It doesn't matter what the word is, but basically it's about getting young industry leaders and industry players together to actually discuss the challenges that the industry faces as a whole. Is to promote viewpoints and interests of the Australian retail merchandising and would include seminars and networking functions. But we also believe that it's important for industry players to support and actually be involved in the creation of that particular program and the association. So that would also promote relationships between universities and organisations and other retail institutions.
This is what it would look like. So you could punch in whatever you needed to search for. You would have to log in, so we would expect that businesses would need to sign up, and once they sign up and pay the fee, then all of their staff and students would have access. This is just an example of how it would project information that's going on in the industry. Examples of terminology, as we've already touched on, merchandise planner, allocator, differs between different businesses, different jobs, terms and acronyms such as GMROI and EBITDA. You may not necessarily know if you're new to the industry, systems, and then with things like net profit and sell-through, and it would define what that is as well as give you the detail. So if you don't just know what the formula is, but how you would use it and when you would need to use it.
A retail merchandise association. This essentially what we plan to have is to facilitate networking and also educational opportunities amongst retailers across the country. We need to band together as brothers and sisters and come together as a family to be better merchandisers, standing proud for all of Australia as a complete industry. The association we see would be critical to establishing best practices across the retail merchandise floor, provide education to prevent the brain drain across the industry, and provide strong leadership as an important cog of the retail machine. Development of the educational programs such as this, providing a path for industry and progression within, would provide key strength in encouraging knowledge share across merchandise, leading to a more competent and a more efficient workforce for the merchandise function. A stronger merchandise function is also key, very key, to a strong retail industry, and ensuring that we build and develop talent within Australia, and we will make the internationals take notice and drive Australia really as a retail force. Our reliance on international talent will be replaced by organic Australian development of talent. It would also allow a platform for members to discuss industry developments and to seek out answers, to solve questions that can't be solved singularly but as a collective.
I just want to go back, and it has been touched on a little bit. Some time back there was a couple of very passionate people within the ARA, and they went and spoke to a Learning and Development Committee about the need for merchandise planners. That's James and Sue. it was put to the Learning and Development Committee. You could correct me if I'm wrong, but this is my understanding. That it was put to the Learning and Development Committee of the ARA, and they really grabbed with both hands. Obviously, it also included service skills, who again grabbed it with their hands, and we've had what we've had today. I think that the program has been an absolutely amazing program. I stood up the back there and I made a couple of notes while I was listening, and I thought, well, the first thing realistically that's come out of this today is the skill is not recognised, and that is a very important thing. I guess a lot of retail skills are not recognised. Interestingly enough, there are some HR managers are definitely recognised, and there are other skills that are recognised, but this is a skill that's not recognised, and yet is probably the most important and integral part of the business. Because if you don't get it right at merchandising planning, let me tell you, you've got a big problem. So this series will provide a new platform for professional development to build sustained talent and productivity. It will incorporate a high level of practical learning through examining industry case studies, business scenarios, and solving merchandise problems. I am sure today we would all agree that it has really, well and truly, completely achieved that mark, and probably far more. I've already thanked Sue and James, but again I want to say thank you to you for the incredible amount of work that you've and contribution and dedication you've put into this. I certainly could not pass this moment without thanking Yasmin King. You need someone with passion and drive, and nobody more that I know would have more passion and drive. Lauren Hoskins up the back there somewhere, Lauren, thank you, over there, has done a tremendous job supporting Yasmin and being involved in this. I also want to thank Beverly. Beverly's been part of the program from day one and was a mentor to the participants, and thank you very much for your work too. And now I want to ask you all to do something. I want you to give yourself a real good hard round of applause. Thank yourselves for being here, being part of it from the association. Thank you.